everyone. Welcome to another edition of Dayton Sports Huddle, The Dish. I'm Jeff Lauterbach, and we're here at Submarine House in Centerville, our normal home. I'm with welcome back co-host Richie Moody. I know you had a frenetic schedule last week, but glad to have you back.
Glad to be back.
It's March, and I know our guest here today is excited about this month because March is the official beginning of the 2019 golf season in the Dayton area. Welcome, Steve Jurick of the Miami Valley Golf Association, Executive Director.
Thank you very much. Yes, March does basically start our golf season. We go active for score posting, obviously depending on the weather, March 15th. So this is kind of when everything gets going. Today we've had a great day. It's 64 degrees. I was at Yankee Trace earlier. They've got new golf carts. The golf course has probably got 60, 70, 80 people on it already. So I think the appetites are wet for our game to get rolling.
I got to say, in Ohio today was the first day I felt like golfing.
That's true. That's true.
The weather has been abysmal this year, up and down, but I know in the Golf Association and the clubs around here that you help support, they really depend on the weather. So how has that been going for them?
Well, it's interesting that most of our golf facilities now that are a little bit progressive actually have quite a bit of screen golf. We call that simulator golf or whatever. And it is a way for them definitely to keep interest in the game all year round. So it's been very successful in that respect.
Yeah, when I was on my way here, I was thinking, Steve, he might decide to ditch us
and just go
out on the golf course. Because today, a typical Ohio weather, it looked
had to
really.
Think about it today when you was at Yankee Trace.
I did, as a matter of fact, and I'm heading over to Sycamore Creek after this. So the thing is, you just never know with the weather here in Dayton, Ohio, and. The great thing right now is as soon as daylight savings comes along, we get an extra hour at night. So think about all those leagues now that are ready to go, and that extra hour is going to make a big difference for them. I hate the fact that they're talking about getting rid of, daylight savings time now that we're in, because if that happens, we lose an hour in our business. You're not going to necessarily get up at 4:30 in the morning and play golf. As a matter of fact, the golf industry in the state of Ohio is bigger than all the sports organizations, professional organizations combined. There is a ton of golf in Ohio, and we're the fifth most populous golf state. From an economic enhancement dynamic, it's a significant driver of our economy. So,
and this year is a pivotal year for Miami Valley Golf Association, your 25th anniversary as an organization, and the 100th version of what's now known as the Metropolitan, the main Dayton Amateur Golf Tournament, and which is managed by your organization. So I bet you're excited about everything going on this year.
Yeah, 25 years isn't necessarily long in a tradition-filled environment like golf, but for the Dayton market, we had a number of organizational attempts prior to us forming in 1994, and for whatever reason they didn't stick, and so we've been fortunate enough, and the golf environment has been rich enough, you might say, from just strictly an economic standpoint, that we've been able to essentially hop in and start helping our clubs to a much higher level. Collaboration is a big key, and even more so as we start heading into different directions. So so that's fantastic as far as 25 years. The Metropolitan is 100 years old. It was basically played over about a 2-week period back in 1919. The original winner was Ben Hilton, who was a big developer in the Dayton market. As a matter of fact, there's a road named after him right next to Community 17th hole. So we've got, Jeff, you've written a nice article for us as far as some historical documents, and we're recapping that whole area, so we'll have a great story on how the first amateur championship was played.
Very cool.
And that's a good segue into DaytonSportsHuddle.com. We've debuted our online magazine to coincide or complement with the show, and there are 2 articles related to MVGA as part of the content. One, a general feature on what the organization is about, the 2019 season happenings, which we'll be getting into in this show.
Yep.
And another topic that we're going to be getting into about 2019 marks the first year in a long time of what's known as the modern rules of golf. I know that's real exciting. We have a lot of work going on, so there's a lot of good things we're going to be talking about.
We have a program in the Dayton market called Youth on Course. It is wonderful for kids 18 and younger. They just go to youthoncourse.org. They hop in and join for $5. That makes them a member of our association. And then they also get a discounted green fee when they go to a number of courses that are part of the program. We fund that through our foundation, and it's actually a national program, so it runs throughout the United States.
And that's a topic we'll talk about when we come back from break, because kids and golf, that's an interesting segment. So we'll be back in a few moments after this sponsor break.
Just because you're not looking for evil doesn't mean evil's not looking for you.
Evil surrounds us. Rated R starts Fridays in theaters everywhere.
No time to eat between work and school?
Bruh, let me get a chip.
Yo, go to the Jenkins vending machine, man. They got anything and everything.
Mr. Jenkins vending machine uses state-of-the-art technology that allows you to get a satisfying snack when you don't have time to wait in those fast food lines. And you don't have to settle for the typical vending machine stale chips.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Ribs, chicken, or chips. Mr. Jenkins vending machines, find one everywhere.
What, want a piece?
Welcome back to Dayton Sports Huddle, The Dish. We're here with Steve Jurick of the Miami Valley Golf Association. And Steve, before the break, you were talking about kids in golf, or an event. And I know that's, obviously you need a new generation. You have to keep replacing the generations to keep a sport going. And golf, more than obviously soccer, you just pick up a ball and play. Basketball, you pick up a ball and play. Golf, hockey, those are sports that's a little bit more intensive to start and to get your kids involved. What do you think about that as far as the strategies you use to get kids involved in golf?
You know, that's a fantastic segment into the fact that, you know, we do have a lot of things that make it hard to get started in our game. I'm not going to tell you we don't. It can be expensive. It can be time consuming, and let's face facts, it's awful hard, okay? But the benefits from learning the game are lifelong. From a networking standpoint, you get to play with all kinds of wonderful people, and frankly, we probably wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for the game. So those kind of life relationships are imperative for success. So that's one of the reasons. The other is health. You can play golf until you're in the grave or very close to it. The average round of golf is well over 10,000 steps. If you play golf, there's a big social component to it, and we all know that golf is, you know, being social keeps you younger longer. It helps you live longer. There's cases of diabetes being lower. There's cases of a lot of beneficial health dynamics that really are kind of a driving factor as to why the game is important. And when we start talking about the rules, we can now get into the integrity dynamic and teaching our next generation or even new golfers how important it is to have personal integrity.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the youth on course, and obviously that's attacking youth. What types of programs or what type of things are you doing for like inner city? You know, I mean, I know there's a lot of other foundations out there. You know, Tiger Woods Foundation obviously really attacks a lot of the youth in inner city. And to Jeff's point, you know, they can throw a ball out on the playground and they can play basketball, they can play soccer, they can do a multitude of different things. Why golf?
Well, for all the reasons I just said, plus more. And what I mean by more is, you know, let's think about it from what's a person's life exposure important. You know, I mean, if you can't see it, then you can't envision it and you can't dream it. So no matter how you kind of move forward in your life, it's important to have as much width as possible going forward. So the Dayton Y, and they have a program called Mentors Matters. So that essentially helps get some of the urban kids involved because they go through the Y program and then they come in for a couple hours. And that is actually stewarded by the First Tee of Greater Miami Valley. And the First Tee has programs throughout. So I really think that there is a wonderful opportunity to get engaged. There's going to be a few things that are always going to be hurdles, and we try to remove those as we go. And that's frankly what we're about in our foundation, removing hurdles.
Yeah, kind of, you know, Jeff and I have talked obviously a lot about baseball, and I really feel your organization, and, you know, baseball, MLB, and other organizations like that, they're really struggling with, you know, the millennials and the younger generation to really get them because of the time and the other aspects. I'd like to, you know, maybe if you can touch on a couple things, because I do believe the social aspect, the life lesson, the integrity of the game aspect, those are all very important throughout, you know, not only your sport and your sport playing days, but also your recreational days as well.
Oh yes, and you know, the key is I think playing a sport or sports is imperative to success because you understand what it's like to be part of a team, how to make a commitment, how to live with what you said you're going to do, and if you fail, it's important to learn how to fail. Because life's about failures. You can't succeed all the time. It's how you manage those failures and how you get some power from that.
And you mentioned First Tee. That's a good transition to talking about. MVGA is not just one aspect. I know you have a lot of organizations within and a lot of relationships and partnerships with other golf-related organizations. What can you tell us about that as far as your relationships?
Well, much like the Dayton Foundation is a community foundation, and they have a lot of organizations that they support, the Miami Valley Golf Association fulfills that role in the golf community. Golf is a very splintered dynamic in that there's all sorts of people who like to have fun with it. And so consequently they kind of run off in their own little areas somehow. And as you want them to get connected, they come to us and we help them get connected. So over the last few years, we've managed the Dayton District Women, the Miami Valley Masters, and now they're kind of part of our organization. We helped the Miami Valley First Tee get started. We've started our foundation. So we kind of think of us, of our role is kind of that brain, what I'm looking for, a Kickstarter.
A way to bring different programs together.
Yeah, so basically we are a community access provider, so anything we can do, much like Dayton Sports Huddle does as far as trying to get your arms around being able to get people moving forward, that's what our role is for golf.
Yeah, I actually have a question, and it goes hand in hand with the different organization groups. What about, you know, I know we used to host at Yankee, you know, a minor league tour. Any chances of bringing a web.com event in, or one of the other minor events that we used to have?
Well, so the reason I'm laughing is there's a possibility we might not have a minor event so much, but I really can't comment on that yet. So hopefully, if things go forward, we might have something come down.
I think we hit something. We were able to get some follow-up questions here.
Well, you're not going to get anything more from me, I promise. Club almost to our north. So we do have some Metro Tour event. It's down at Rivers Bend. So that's basically the web.com of the LPGA Tour. We have a lot of golf, obviously, in Columbus with the Memorial. We have the live golf up in Toledo. I think the Junior Amateur is at Inverness this year. So those are fairly significant events. And, you know, you really look at the Miami Valley market now, you know, it's kind of like Dallas, Fort Worth. We're kind of all moving together. So there may be something coming down the pipe.
Well, we're going to take another sponsor break. When we come back, we'll talk to Steve about the modern rules of golf.
Submarine House isn't just a place for great subs. It isn't just the place for great cheesesteaks, pizzas, and appetizers. Submarine House isn't just the place to get our own house craft beer, Deep Diver Ale. The Submarine House is the best place to see the big game with your friends and your family. Great reasons to stop by your neighborhood Submarine House.
Check out our great daily specials. With locations around Dayton and in Columbus, you're never far from a Submarine House.
Subs, sports, spirits, Submarine House.
Welcome back to Dayton Sports Huddle the Dish. We're here at Submarine House in Centerville. Lots of TVs, lots of sports on, and this is a good time to talk to Steve Jurick of the Miami Valley Golf Association about the modern rules of golf.
Sure.
Obviously at a sports bar, sometimes there's conversation about rules, debate about different sports, and I know golf is no different. And for years and years and decades, golf had the same set of rules, and as we were talking about earlier, it can be a difficult game to learn. And maybe you could tell us about the roots of the modern rules of golf and how it relates to what people will find on the course this year.
Okay, thanks. So, you know, it is interesting. The one thing that's great about most sports, and even particular golf, is we never run out of things to talk about. And these new rules of golf are creating all kinds of conversation. I mean, you'd have to live underneath a rock to not hear about everything that's going on. But the rules of golf basically are hundreds of years old. The first set of rules was written in 1744. That's before the United States existed. You know, they've been updated through the years. Basically, the last major reorganization was 1984. So for the last, 34 years, essentially played under the same set of rules. And you know what? People don't like change. So 2019 brings in a bunch of changes. Are they better? Absolutely, and here's why. The reason they're better is the rules of golf are now written kind of how you're going to play around a golf, how the average golfer does it. So a good example would be if you're playing down a hole where there is native area on the side, you hit your ball in it, you're going to lose your golf ball. If not, you might want to go in there and play it, but you might not want to take relief, you know, for the stroke dynamic. Now, technically under the rules of golf, it can be a penalty area, so you have a way to proceed, so you have a score. That's an important thing, particularly if we've got a bet, right?
Yeah, okay. Right.
You know,
Most importantly.
Right, so I mean, if we were playing together and we could just throw it down and go. And basically that's what you do with a little bit more, you know, quotation marks around how you throw it down.
Yeah.
The other thing is the new local rule for stroke and distance. So that is, if you hit a ball out of bounds or you lose it, there is now a local rule in place that your club has to adopt, or your competition has to adopt, that will allow you to essentially drop where the ball last crossed that margin out of bounds, or where you think the ball is lost, as long as it's no closer to the hole than where it crossed the margin or where you think it's lost. So then we can move forward and we don't have to go back. Now mind you, it doesn't replace playing a provisional ball. So
those all make really common sense to like help nowadays on, you know, with slow play, different things that always happen during the course of a round.
Still doesn't help you find your ball.
It doesn't help you find your ball. That's why they got
Still
yellow
lost.
You're right, it doesn't, and I'm not sure how soon it will be, but there will be a chip in the golf ball. Matter of fact, if you're one of those who like good top golf like me, so that we can get through the winters, those balls have chips in them. So it won't be long until you have a beat going somewhere where you might be able to find
Well, I
it.
love my app on my phone when I'm playing golf, and it gives you, a lot of feedback. So why not have a chip in the ball that coincides with the with your phone and your app in your phone?
Yeah. Now, one of the bad things, but it may spur innovation, is the time to search for a golf ball has gone from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. All right, so maybe innovation is going to come from that. So that's really one of the really cool features about it. The other thing, as far as saving time, is you can putt with the flag stick in the hole now.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
What your opinion was on that as well?
Well, I
like it. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's a wonderful thing, especially being an amateur, because, we tend to hit it hard sometimes. We don't want to leave it short, especially if it's a birdie putt and it's going right over if the flag's not in.
Right. So essentially, there's a lot of stats out there that say that no matter what you want to do, if the flag sticks in the middle of the hole, you pretty much want to putt with the flag in the hole. Now, it's going to make you feel a little uncomfortable at first, but the math is clearly in your favor. If you're going to hit a good putt, it's going to be holding anyhow, but if you hit a putt a little bit harder, and there's a site on the website that essentially did 1,000 putts in those very conditions, and basically 23% more of the putts that were going to probably roll through the hole and not go in are going to go in now. All right?
I like that stat.
And the better stat is if you indeed hit the flag stick, the ball doesn't roll as far past the hole.
Yeah.
So it's a much easier cleanup in that case. Much easier.
You're talking to me. Music to my ears.
I know. It's one of those things that just, again, it starts to make sense. It starts to make sense.
For the average day golfer, for sure. We're out there. We don't get a chance to hit range balls like the professionals every day. You probably more so because you're around the industry. But for the average golfer, when we get out maybe 2, maybe 3 times a week during the summer, it makes sense.
That's fantastic. And I would say getting out at all is important.
Yes.
And then always try to get better.
Yeah.
So that's one of the great things about our game. The other thing, obviously, is the integrity dynamic. The rules of golf don't work unless we all hold ourselves accountable. And it's not so much that we have to hold ourselves accountable. We want to hold ourselves accountable. But you don't want to put your fellow competitors in a bad situation where they feel like they're going to have to say something to you that could be uncomfortable because you proceeded improperly. And the biggest example of that this year is the fact that we're going to have to drop the golf ball now from knee height as opposed to shoulder height. Nobody would think it'd be a big deal, but it's a big deal. You got to drop it at knee height. If you don't drop it at knee height, it's not a problem. Pick it up and drop it at knee height. If you drop it higher than knee height and you play the golf ball, it's a 1-stroke penalty if it stays within the relief area. It's a 2-stroke penalty if it moves outside. So think about that from a competitive standpoint. And I've just seen Richie do this. I've got to have to say something before he plays. That's just plain and simple. Because if I don't, then in a stroke play competition, Richie's going to be playing against everybody else in the field. So this is a personal integrity dynamic, and this is a characteristic that really helps get people through their life with a high integrity quotient and just become someone that you want to be. You want to grow, you want to exude these
And Richie has to carry the beers and the clubs.
Yes. Well, you got to stay hydrated. You must stay
That's
hydrated.
right.
You must stay hydrated.
Yeah, and I think that these new rules also, you mentioned how golf is a lifetime sport, and sometimes people take it up later in life when their body will no longer allow them to play recreational basketball or softball or tennis or any other more physical sport. People want to stay competitive and have a fun time, so they take up golf. But these new rules allow it to be easier to understand and less intimidating.
Yeah, so a lot of the changes are supposed to soften the rule dynamic. So as we move through our round of golf, we hit a ball on the putting green. We used to not be able to fix spike marks or blemishes. Now we can do all of that. We just can't make a trough to the hole. So we don't want to do that, but you can fix those. If you hit a ball in the bunker, you can take loose impediments out, which are basically leaves or twigs or anything like that, as long as it doesn't move the golf ball. You can bring the rake into the bunker You can rake in and rake out as long as you're not testing the condition. There's really only 4 things you can't do in a bunker now, where you used to you really could only do a couple things in a bunker. Now there's only 4 things you can't do. You can't ground it in front of the club, or in front of the ball, behind the ball, make a practice swing, or test the condition. So, I mean, those are kind of big deals when it comes to just making it easier. And when you get into a penalty area now, which is essentially the old water house for professional old prodder, you can ground your club, you can pick up all the loose impediments of the world that are there. You just can't move your golf ball. All right? You move your golf ball, you put it back, it's 1 strike. However, now, in 2019, this set of rules, if you move your golf ball on the putting green, there's no stroke. You just put it back. You just put it back. Kinder, gentler. Makes sense. You know, we can be clumsy now, you know, on the putting green, which a lot of us are.
Yep.
You know, and when it comes to dropping from knee height, you know, everybody's given, you know, a hard time. I think you've seen Earthy Pallor go to drop it behind him, but realize it's just knee height. That's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
But realize that we tee the ball up 18 times. You know, we pick the ball out of the hole, hopefully 18 times. Not that you have to, but you know, hopefully we do. We just haven't figured out how to do it stylishly. So as soon as we figure out how to drop the ball stylishly, we'll be fine.
Well, we're coming down to our final moments. It's been a insightful show with Steve Jurick of the Miami Valley Golf Association, and we'll have you back, Steve, this summer when it gets closer to the 100th version of the Metropolitan.
Great, thank you.
And where can people find more information about MVGA and also the modern rules of golf and all the organizations that you're involved with?
All they have to do is go to MiamiValleyGolf.org and realize that we are a member-driven organization, and we use all of our profits. We are a nonprofit and a charity. We use all of our profits to pour back to make our game better, which in tune makes our community better. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today. This was a lot of fun. Thanks to the folks at Submarine House, one of my favorite places, frankly, and I should probably admit that. But thank you very much. I really appreciate the invite.
And that's a perfect time to talk that for being on Dayton Sports Huddle The Dish. Steve, you'll be receiving a gift card to Submarine House, and I know you'll put that to good use.
Yes, I will.
This is one of your favorite places.
It is.
And before we say goodbye, Richie, we're excited about the DaytonSportsHuddle.com website that is debuted, courtesy of our designer, videographer, producer, Mr. Damian Burrs of Dundon Sports Clips.
Yep, looks really good. Looks really good.
Yeah, we're glad, and you could see a couple articles from and about Miami Valley Golf Association on there. So we look forward to seeing you again on another edition of Dayton Sports Huddle The Dish. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, that'll really look good when we have. We could put the silver on it.